Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us each and every Thursday for a discussion of the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals with Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I am your host, Marcus Stewart, as evidenced by this hat, because, you know, the normal host, Alex Van Aken, always wears a hat, so I thought that, like, taking the crown, because he's not here this week, I would... It's like Digimon protagonists, like they always have goggles to let you know that they're the main character. Yeah. It's like the same thing. If you wear a hat, you host the podcast. That's how it works.
One of the other people on here is also wearing a hat. Are they a host?
I guess we'll get to that. That voice you just heard, you might recognize as a former Game Informer editor, now at the Indie Informer, and also my former video gameography co-host, John Carson.
Hello.
Back in the saddle. Hello.
It's so good to be back. See all of your lovely faces. It's been forever. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about games.
Yes. Someone that is less new, less special, but still an all right guy. Kyle Hillard is here, everyone.
Less new, less special. That's good. That's like my old AIM. You know, AOL Instant Messenger, you would have your like status. That would be a good status for me.
Yeah, you can make it your Twitter bio.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
The new AIM Twitter.
Make it look all flashy like an ad.
And I never wear a hat on the rare occasions that I host, so I'm just throwing a wrench in the whole works here.
Yeah. And my hat-wearing rival, our lovely podcast editor, Matt Storm, is here. Hello.
Hi, I'm happy to be back. Yeah, Alex had to flee to parts unknown, so I'm the subpar Alex replacement that's not hosting.
Is he trying to find the ultimate warrior?
I mean, you never know.
Is that where he was from, Marcus?
Parts unknown. Yeah.
He was from Parts Unknown. Okay. Oh god. Like, yes, Kyle's grimace because he realizes he's trapped in a podcast with three wrestling fans.
I know, and I don't even have like a lot to add this week. I haven't been playing anything new, so it is just going to be like a lot of me being like,
let's talk about this bloodline story. What about the Wyatt Six?
Yeah, we can induct Kyle as, like, you know, when Sammy was the honorary Oos, he can be like the honorary wrestling.
Yeah, we'll jump him in.
I did recently, when we were doing our Super Replay Majora's Mask, you were describing a wrestling thing, Marcus, and I looked up RoboCop and who was it?
Sting. That's
Sting.
Right.
I looked up RoboCop and Sting, and I found that pretty ridiculous and enentertaining. So
and it made you want to watch.
That's my
week,
familiarity
right?
with wrestling now. Is RoboCop was there once inexplicably.
And we're still waiting for him to come back. Hello, everyone. This is a video game podcast. Some might say the best out there. And you can help us continue making it the best by subscribing to a physical issue of Game Informer magazine. Our subscriptions are still live right now. You can get 10 issues a year for just $19.91. You can also get 20 issues a year for $39 or $34.99. If you're watching the video version, you can see John Carson holding up the Hades issue that I wrote, flipping through all the lovely pages. You could be just like him, holding a physical issue of the magazine right now. And
okay, wait, no. We're drawing a line somewhere. We gotta draw a line somewhere, John.
All right.
Yeah, you can lick the page like John just did too. I mean, we're not here to tell you what you do with the magazine. We just would love it if you just subscribe to it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not here to run your life. So yeah, it's a great way to support us, and also a great way to show our parent company that we are worth keeping around. But yeah, we've got a very packed show today. A lot of cool games to talk about. The big release this week is Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, which is the brand new expansion to the... Can you say that Final Fantasy XIV is the most popular MMO in the world? It's up there, right?
It's up there. I don't know the exact numbers, but like it's one of the hottest ones out there.
Yeah, maybe
like,
not ever, but currently, right?
Like
currently,
might be bigger than WoW right now.
I would assume so.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. And John, you've been playing it because you're reviewing it for us. So
yes. You
have been steeped into the world of Final Fantasy XIV. I don't remember what the actual landmass is called in that game because I have very limited.
Eorzea,
is that how you pronounce it?
The source? Like there's a few different names, but yeah.
Okay, I have very limited Final Fantasy XIV experience, even though as a Final Fantasy fan, it's something I've always wanted to make time for. So I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are so far on Dawntrail. So I'm gonna pass the baton to you, sir.
Sure. Dawntrail, it's an interesting expansion to dive into because the previous expansion, Endwalker, was the culmination of everything that they had been working towards since the original Final Fantasy XIV release. And so they wrapped up like this huge story. All their like big character arcs have kind of been completed, and now everyone's like, well, what's next? What do you do? Like, this thing is hotter than it's ever been, but also your big story's done. So Dawntrail is kind of their summer vacation adventure expansion, and your character, the Warrior of Light, and a few other characters that you've been traveling with they join up with this lady named Wook Lamont, who is the daughter of this guy called the Dawn Servant, who's like the king or emperor, like he's the ruler.
Wait,
of
are we talking
this...
about wrestling again? Did we fall?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
right.
Wook Lamont might actually be a good player.
This expansion the expansion was called Bash at the Beach before they changed the name.
Right, yeah, they
should
updated
call
the
it
title.
that. Right. That's gonna be my subhead for this thing. So basically, Wook Lamont is vying to be the successor to the throne for her land in the what's called the New World. It's a place called Tyrol. It's a big continent that no one really goes to. It's hard to get to. It's people from that land don't really travel off of it because of the way that like the ocean is around it. It's super shallow for a while, so they can't build big boats to actually traverse the seas. So there's not a ton of back and forth, but there's enough. There's enough that gets back and forth. But we go to that land and we start learning about the right of succession. This contest between Wook Lamont, her two brothers, and another claimant to the throne, like who won a martial arts tournament or something that they did off screen, which is a super bummer because I wanted to see that. So you're traveling around with Wook Lamont and learning about the different cultures there, the different people, and trying to complete these rites of succession to get Wook Lamont to ascend to the throne. It's kind of a shonen anime at its heart.
Okay.
Interesting.
Wook Lamont's she's very like, I love peace, but I will fight anyone and everyone to get it. She's always like fired up. She's always willing to listen. She's very compassionate. She's very passionate. And so like it has that soul of a Goku or
I was just gonna say, it sounds like Goku.
Yeah.
I almost said it sounded like Malcolm X, of like peace by any means necessary.
But like that's the thing. Like there are 4 different people who are vying for this throne, and she's very straightforward and she wants peace. There's already a lasting peace in the land, and she wants to keep that. Everyone respects her father. But like,
this isn't a choice, by the way. Like you're given to this. This character is like your only avenue, right? Like
yes,
you can't go hang.
You are put onto this path.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you kind of meet her right before the expansion starts, and then you travel with her to her land. And so one of her brothers is very like scientific minded, and he wants to solve everything with new technology from like the place that you're from. Because he's studied there, he thinks that it can better his society, but he doesn't really think about the people and what they want or what their traditions are. You have her other brother, who's Zoralja. He kind of looks like a Covenant from Halo. There's a whole civilization called the Mamulja, which are like these lizard people. We've kind of seen them before in 14, but they're a much bigger presence in this. The Dawn Servant, the ruler of the land, is a Mamulja, but he's a 2-headed Mamulja. So he has a side that's more like straightforward and wants to, I guess, do things with like physical means, and then he has like a more reasoned side that is like more magically enhanced. And that's like a big theme in the story is these special Mamuljas that they're called like blessed siblings because they're two people on one body, but they're like super powerful, and they're meant to rule according to their culture. So one of the claimants is one of these blessed siblings, like a basically a 1 in 100 child that is super powerful. He's the one who won like the martial arts tournament to get in. But he wants to win the throne so his people can rule over everyone instead of everyone being like in like living together in peace. There's a lot of politics in this.
I was gonna say, for what sounded like go hang out on a nice beach and just kick back.
Yeah, and it's and that's why I think the producers of this expansion have been kind of upfront that they're like, yeah, it's kind of summer vacation, but it is more adventure. Like you are going out and exploring this new place and learning about these new people. And there's a lot of set dressing. There's a lot of story building or like world building that happens because we haven't been here before. Like there aren't a lot of threads that they could pull from earlier expansions for these people. So I want to say like the first like 10 hours or so are pretty much just like talking to people. Like there's not a lot of combat in the beginning of this, but like things are starting to ramp up where I'm at, which is about 2/3 of the way through or so of the leveling process. Geez, it feels like it's been like 30 hours or so, but what they're paying off with seems cool and worth it. And I like what I've learned about these cultures. You learn about them in cool ways, like through how you learn about any culture in the world, like looking at their sculptures or visiting like their holy sites, or even through their food.
You're kind of entrenched in it.
Right, exactly. And they put everything together very smartly. It's not the most action-packed stuff at all times, but it's very interesting. It's very heartfelt. I think they're telling a very good story, and things are going off the rails in a way that I can like super get behind. Last night I was in a call with friends of the show, Jesse Vitelli and Michael Hyam, and Jesse was like just ahead of where me and Michael were, and he was like popping off on Mike, and then like an hour later Michael's popping off at the same thing, and then I got there an hour later and I'm popping off at the same thing. Like we're so back. This is so good. Final Fantasy XIV is still hitting. It's still firing on all cylinders. It just takes a little bit to get there, I think, for this expansion.
God. So, like, my big question with this and any, like, expansion really is, like, my Final Fantasy XIV experience pretty much boils down to playing the first 2 hours of the game on a stream with MinMax's Sarah Pazorski and our lovely web designer, John Woody, who are both Final Fantasy XIV, just, like, sickos. Yeah, Woody's great. Yeah. So, like, can you just jump into this? Like, what are sort of the prerequisites to start this expansion?
So, if you want to experience the whole story up until that point, let's say you load up Final Fantasy XIV, you have to go through the entire main story quest to get to this point.
That's the part that's considered a Realm Reborn?
A Realm Reborn, then Heavensward, then Stormblood, then Shadowbringers, then Endwalker, and then this. When I was catching up for my Endwalker review back when I worked at GI, it took me about 2 months and about 300 hours to catch up to Endwalker.
That sounds pretty quick, actually.
It was like every evening, I was grinding away at it.
Because when I think about that, I was like, well, that's like a year minimum of my life. It feels like
it's a lot. it's a lot, but like it's super worth it. Like it is still my favorite Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Easily.
I remember hearing you say that, and it makes like there's definitely FOMO as a Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah.
That this one is like hearing other fans say like this is the best like story they've ever told, and and it's like, oh man, I want to get in on that, but I didn't get in on the ground floor, just like I just didn't. So it's like, man, there's so much. It's like intimidating. It's like it's like the idea of starting One Piece from the beginning.
Oh yeah, I will never ever. I want to, but I will never.
All weekend I've been thinking like this is the One Piece of video games. Like,
I mean,
it is so long, but it's so worth it, and like seeing every piece of it's so good. Like the world building is immaculate. One thing I didn't really mention before about this is the times you do like get to enjoy combat and stuff, like the dungeons, the trials, like the group content has been really good. All of the bosses have had very cool mechanics that really test your skills. There have been a lot of groups that I've been in that will die to a boss, but we'll all notice exactly what we need to do, and then on the next run we are learning something and applying it, and really, I don't know, like it's there's nothing that really comes out of nowhere that's not like unsolvable. It's just if the mechanics are very clean and readable, and not always easy to figure out, but you are able to figure them out and work around them, and I think they've been very successful and fun for all those encounters. Awesome.
Have you had a chance to try the new, was it classes, like the Pictomancer?
Yeah, there's the Pictomancer and the Viper. I haven't yet. I've just been kind of trying to work through the main story quest. I want to, once I do finish that up. Pictomancer is a class that uses like a magical brush and can paint like creatures, and I don't know all the details, but they use like painting magic.
Yeah, it's what Realm was in FF. Oh God, I forgot the number that Realm appears in. 4?
That sounds right. 4
Sounds
or 5?
correct.
Yeah,
it's 4 or 6, one of the two. Sorry for fans screaming at me right now, but I just literally drew a blank.
Yeah, send your
but
angry
that was
emails too.
That was what she did from that game, from what I remember. But okay.
And then Viper is like a melee focused dual sword wielding class that can kind of like put the swords together like Darth Maul and do some cool sword stuff. I haven't played them yet either though, but they are a big part of the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I had to look this up because it was bothering me. It's Final Fantasy VI. Okay.
It is 6. Okay.
That's what my gut was telling me.
I never got that far in 6.
Yeah,
me neither.
Supposedly, there's a lot of 9 inspirations in 14. And I think
go on.
Yeah, I think the Mamulja and Galul Jaja, the Dawn Servant, the ruler of the land, is a character that was in 9. I think I was seeing. So, the inspirations aren't hitting me over the head with a hammer. But it is supposed to be 9 adjacent, which is pretty cool.
The main villain isn't secretly Vivi somehow.
Not yet.
They take their mask off. Like, whoa!
Time. It could happen. You never know. They could add it in like a patch later on. I will say this, Marcus, as someone who was also indoctrinated into Final Fantasy XIV a few years back by the aforementioned Jesse Vitelli, who I think we all blame for it on one way or another. I've gotten through the main story quest of A Realm Reborn and then like halfway through the first expansion, and I did it almost completely by myself, unless like friends were playing new classes to play with me. You can treat it as a single. I have a friend who's played the entire
100%.
game single player, and so like and by the way, I do own all of the expansions through Endwalker because there was a sale, and I was like, well, I'll play it eventually. So, like, you could start it and, like, take your time and play it once a week. And, like, it would take an extremely long amount of time, but you could do it by yourself. You don't actually have to play with other people.
Yeah, I do have that version of the game, too. That's what I was playing when I streamed it a few years ago, was, like, I guess whatever bundle that came like all the way up to Endwalker, because I think Endwalker was still new at the time. So it's like I'm ready to go. Basically, I just have to sit down and just like commit to it. I did like what I played.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's super fun. They have made single player stuff a lot easier too. In the last expansion or two, they added basically NPC characters that will go into dungeons with you, so you don't have to wait for random people to group up with for the dungeon, and they help you along pretty well too in those dungeons. So like if you're new to mechanics, you won't have people maybe berating you because you're dying. But
right. I was gonna say, like, if I were to play with you guys who are probably like level a gazillion at this point, would that like break the balancing? Like, would you guys just like wipe the floor with everything in like the early game?
You get scaled down, I believe, to the dungeon you're teaming with. So we would be your level in the dungeon with you.
Oh, it's pretty smart.
Yeah,
and then we would berate you as your friends.
And then we would berate you. I will say,
why are you standing in the fire? Don't stand in the fire.
You joke about that. I was a big WoW player for many, many years. I think I jumped off after Cataclysm, but like I tanked my whole way through that. And people are a little mean on WoW if you don't know what you're doing and you go up for random dungeons. Like they're not great. But in Final Fantasy XIV, I started as like a paladin and then became a Dark Knight. And when I was tanking, I was still learning, and like we would die or we would have to start over. Everyone was really nice. I told them it was my first try. Nice. Like they were like, "Oh, you're doing a great job. This is only your first time. Then no worries. Like, well, you should try this, or make sure you tank that mob." Like they were so supportive. It was kind of really heartwarming because the internet tends to be not a kind place to new players on the internet.
Sure, people get that those dungeons are kind of a casual thing for some people too. Like they're working through the main story. You do have to do dungeons. It's probably not something that you're going to be doing all the time for a lot of people. If they're just going for story, they're not going for progression or anything. I die a lot, and every time I do, I'm like in the chat, I'm like, so sorry, I'm an idiot. Please just don't revive me. I'm holding this team back. Please
don't revive me.
Don't
Self-deprecation.
Let me die.
It's for your best.
There we go. That is what we call a true hero, ladies and gentlemen.
I stepped away for a few minutes, but is it good? Did we come to a conclusion there?
I like it.
Okay.
I like it so far. It's been a little bit bumpy. There have been some like it starts off pretty slow. Like there's a lot of world building that needs to happen to kind of get to the payoff for what they want to do, and I'm kind of starting to get to that payoff. But like all the combat encounters are very fun, as few and far between as they are. But really the back third of these expansions is always where like that's always the super exciting stuff. That's the stuff I remember from every expansion. That's where everything kicks off. The world is on fire, and you are there to save it. And it's been a solid expansion. It's not my favorite expansion, probably far from it, because Shadowbringers and Walker are pretty high up there for me. But I'm enjoying it quite a bit, and we're starting to get to the fun stuff. And I'm looking forward to what that brings.
Awesome. Well, yeah, Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail available now. I guess keep an eye on GameInformer.com in the near future for John's review. Excited to see what your full thoughts are on it.
Me too.
That was very good.
Speaking of another game that is not out, at least not for everyone, is Infinity Nikki, baby. It's glam time, because I have been playing a beta of the game. The game is out now in like closed beta form. You had to like sign up for it like a month ago or whatever. I forget when they open up registration for it, but people are running around in Infinity Nikki right now. For those that don't know, this is the if you watch the PlayStation State of Play in May, this is a good chance maybe where you saw it for the first time. It's the very like colorful dress-up game with the pink-haired girl in a big open world, and it's part of the Nikki series of like mobile fashion games that have been around for a while in our apparently incredibly popular, especially in Asia. And at least I say this as someone that has no familiarity with the Nikki series whatsoever, but from what I could gather, it's pretty much like the crutch of it is just collecting outfits and dressing up Nikki and just making her look nice. And I think there's some like narrative there, but I think that's like the main hook is like how pretty can you make Nikki pretty Nikki?
Well,
you know?
I was wondering because it's like it's kind of an MMO, right? It's like an online kind of.
We're talking about Infinity Nikki specifically?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know yet. So there is
Okay.
multiplayer in the game, but like that's not active in the beta.
Okay, because
As
I was
far as I
wondering
can
if
tell,
everyone's just Nikki, right? Because you don't. It's not like you create a character, do you?
No, you're just Nikki. You can name her whatever you want.
Right.
You know, I just named her Nikki.
And you can change her hair. You can like change her eye colors, and obviously you change her outfits constantly, right?
Yeah, which you can
Okay.
change like her hair color and style, so you could make her look like I guess a completely different person. But I think they're all just very. I think it's like the Barbie thing, like how like they're all Barbie, but there's different Barbies. You know.
Hi, Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Honestly, I hope that's what it is when a bunch of players
That's
are in
pretty
there.
It's
How
very
are you
good.
getting different outfits and stuff? Do you just have it at your disposal, or are there things that you're doing to get other
So,
things to make her look cute?
oh, you're doing all kinds of things.
Just laughing at how
Like, this
John
is-
like
I'm
goes
just-
carefully
winding
selecting
each word.
How do you dress her up?
How
Is what
do
you're asking.
I
How
become
do
cute
tell.
myself?
So this game. So let's set the stage here. All right. So it opens with Nikki and her little buddy Momo, who's like the cute little furry thing that's hanging out with her that can talk. Like they're getting ready to go to a ball, and she doesn't have a dress, and they're like in an attic. And then she opens a closet, and there's like this beautiful like red gown, but it comes alive and drags her into this world called Mirrorland.
Oh, it's a horror game. Is that?
I think it's technically an isekai,
Oh, okay, yeah,
But-
yeah, that makes
Sure.
sense.
even though everyone there is like human and like not weird.
It's
but
a different
like,
world altogether.
I mean, it is. There are like weird monsters and stuff that she doesn't really react to as like, we don't have these at home. So I don't, but I guess you don't really have context of like what her world is like. So maybe they have weird stuff there too. But yeah, she gets dragged here. And then this like godlike deity beckons her to find the miracle dresses, which apparently the dress that dragged her there is one of them. And she's like, hey, you've been chosen to go save the world somehow you need to gather all the miracle outfits, and that is going to like reveal some sort of like divine truth that will presumably save us all. And Nikki's just like, all right, cool. And it's this big old open world thing where it's first and foremost, I will say that like when this game first came on my radar, like maybe like a year or more ago, and former editor Blake Hester used to champion this game like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
He loves the franchise. Like he's really excited for Infinity Nikki. It's wild.
Wait, does he like the actual franchise?
I
I
think
thought it was
so.
just this game. Okay.
Unless it was a bit for the handful of episodes he was on the show that I edited. Like he always
Which is a
talked about it.
possibility.
Yeah.
I think he's a Nikki sicko.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he
Yeah.
genuinely is.
Okay, but yeah, he was like unironically pumped for this game, and and I was there with him, like maybe a little less like on the DL, but just like just the idea of like a different spin on a big open world game.
Yeah.
Like there's no like overt violence, like no like I don't say no combat, but it's not. That's like not the focus of the game.
It's a game that like you would see to this day, even watching you play for a little while. That the reason I was kind of interested in it because I was like, what is this? Like, what are you doing exactly? Because it just was like really beautiful vistas and like beautiful outfits and dresses, and then it's like you kind of see her flying and double jumping, and I was just like, what is this thing? You know?
Yeah, and like all of those abilities are tied to her outfits. So you're going around, you're collecting outfits, and there's different tiers of them. The main ones are ability outfits, which are the dresses that give her like basically superpowers. So the dress that lets her float like Princess Peach and do a double jump, like that's its own dress. There's another dress that lets her fight or fire these like energy balls that are called like purification, because the enemies are all these they're like demonically corrupted, and her purification ball clears them of the corruption. So you're not killing them, you're purifying them. Even though they vanish into a puff of smoke, we assume that they are now alive and like free of evil somewhere else, I guess. I don't know, but they're not dead. And
They're safe.
Those are like your main abilities. Those are like mapped to the buttons or the keys. The beta's only mouse and keyboard, by the way, which has been a challenge for me as a non-mouse and keyboard player. But you also have like a second class of specialized dresses that are only accessible via like a weapon wheel. So these are like for very bespoke sort of tasks. Like one is for bug catching, and there's one for fishing, and there's a cute one for like grooming animals. Like you just spawn, and by the way, every time you use an ability, she like instantly warps into the outfit that represents it. So like the floating dress, when she jumps and floats, she just immediately dons a blue dress and her hair turns blonde, and it's like a whole thing.
That's I love that, by the way. That is huge. I love that
cool.
you're not really manually swapping outfits like that. Like that's just a simple thing that makes it so much more playable.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like cool to see like, oh, you're just cycling through outfits if you're just going through a bunch of abilities in succession. It's kind of like a fun showcase of the different things that she can wear. But yeah, the dog groomer one is like, or not even dog grooming, it's animal grooming, where you can just walk up to one of the random little animals that are just out and about, and then she'll brush them, and then you get like a material from them. So like, oh, I got dog fur that I need for to make dresses. And that's a big thing with this game, is that you're going around collecting materials, whether it's like animal furs or like picking plants off the ground or fishing or shaking trees to get fruit, and you're getting all this stuff to craft what are called sketches, and the sketches are like your blueprints for the outfits. So like every outfit has like different parts of like, there's a dress, here's a headpiece, shoes, socks, all the way down to like small things like a variety of like accessories and makeup. And you know, they each have their own sort of crafting requirements. And then like I said, some of them are just decorative, and then others have like abilities tied to them. But regardless of what sort of class they fall in, you can wear any combination of anything at any time. So if you really like the way the bug catching outfit looks, you can just wear that all the time and not just when you use that ability, which is nice.
That's cool.
And then I think it's funny, Kyle, I hadn't thought of this till we did our NGT of it, but it's got a bit of like Genshin Impact in its DNA, in a sense of how many different sort of like tasks it gives you. And you're like, this is a game about fulfilling a bunch of different meters. So like early on, you find out, like you meet a character who tells Nikki that she's a stylist, which in that world is like a special person that can create outfits and find other sketches. And you join a stylist guild, and they give you this like tablet thing called a pear pal, and pear is in the fruit, by the way. Mm-hmm. And it basically keeps track of like, here's your stylist level, and that can raise based on like just different things like, oh, you've crafted this many dresses, or you've unlocked this amount of nodes on, you have a skill tree that you get like items and dresses from, or even just like smaller like everyday things like, oh, you picked this many flowers today. And there's like daily task, and then there's that resets every day, and you can only fulfill a certain number of those per day. So they'll give you 6 daily tasks, but you might only be allowed to do 3. And then it's like, oh, you got to come back tomorrow to do more of those to get.
See, that does scare me a little. You know, it's like, it's just gonna be like an obligation kind of game. It's like, I don't know.
I don't think you have to, because there's so many other ways to earn things beyond just like relying on like, I can only get this from the dailies, you know? Like, 'cause there's like a main story, and there's like main quest that you're getting things from, and then there's a bunch of side quests. Like there's a bunch of different citizens, like the main town in the intro is called Flora Wish, which is beautiful. And this game is like a very good looking game. Like it is a very inviting world. It's so colorful. It's like really nicely detailed. The cinematic cutscenes look pretty good too. Like it's fully voice acted, though it's only in, I believe, Mandarin. But an English voiceover is coming, but you know, it's English subtitled. And like the production values are like pretty on point. Like they put some money into this. And like the main quest, I have not hit the whatever is like the limit of what's available in the beta, but it goes from like, oh, you know, Nikki sort of like getting her feet wet, meeting characters, kind of getting like her introduction to how this world works, to like now I'm doing a thing where like people are falling into comas for some reason, and we're trying to figure out why people are falling into comas. And then I ran into like a Team Rocket style like bad guy group of like evil stylists, and we had a fashion contest, and that's how I beat them. Because like,
all right,
because all the dresses you find fall into different categories of like, how would you describe it? Like style, like taste of like, oh, this hat is considered handsome, and then this dress is considered sexy. And so like everything you have falls into one of those. And to beat this evil gang who are called the Ebon Scissors, because they'll cut through you like fabric or whatever their dumb catchphrase was. They're like, oh, you need to put on a handsome outfit, and there's like a point quota you have to hit, and if you assemble an outfit of the most handsome things, and they also gave me a limit on how many different things I could wear, so I couldn't just throw on everything I had, and so I just like filtered my very large inventory of clothing to just the things that were considered handsome, and put on all this like beautiful gown ensemble, and then stood in front of the guy I was competing with, and he had a pretty funny line where he's just like, oh, why can't I take my eyes off of it? It's so handsome.
That's fun.
And like I do like, because the game it's very saccharine, like it's very sweet, like everything in this game is like designed to make you smile constantly, but it does seem to have like a sense of humor and like a weirdness to it that I appreciate it. Like I don't know if it's all the way there, but Kyle, you compared this to like My Little Pony Friendship is Magic a bit, and I don't think it gets all the way there in terms of like how genuinely funny that show can get, and like self-referential and even like sarcastic at times. But there are moments in the writing where they do show like, okay, this isn't just about like, let's just be very kind of like surface level, like happy and chipper and upbeat. Like there'll be characters where like, oh, this person's kind of sassy, or like
there's
the writing
depth there, right? Hopefully more as the game goes along, right?
Yeah, there are moments that have kind of shown like, okay, maybe there's a bit more to the writing than just keep people happy. It plays nicely, like jumping around and platforming, especially with the floaty dress. Like you can climb up on rooftops, which, you know, they hide collectibles up there. And a lot of the game is doing all these different sort of mini games. So like the main collectible you're finding are called Whim Stars, and it reminds me a lot of finding stars in like a 3D Mario game, like a Mario Odyssey, where they're like all over the place, and some of them can just be found, but then others have like challenges tied to them where like, oh, you can only get this star if you kill everything around, or excuse me, purify everything around
Thank you.
Yeah.
That might be even darker.
And or like a sort of like a chase mini game where like, oh, we're gonna put a line of them in front of you, and you have limited time to try to hit all of them, and they're kind of scattered in different ways, so it's like a light platforming challenge. My favorite one so far is sort of this like kind of like I Spy game where they kind of like put a radius around you, and you have to find a star-shaped object within that space. So it can be either a picture of a star on like a sign, like a logo, or like there was like a wreath that was shaped like a star. So it's like just observe and see if you can find a star in the environment within this space, and we'll give you a Whim Star. There's even like special like portals that take you to small challenge rooms that are, at the best comparison, is like shrines from like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like, we're going to take you to the small little pocket dimension, and we're going to give you like a very short platforming or puzzle challenge that you have to get through. With like, I did one where you have to like guide a ball down a ramp into a little hole, but it's got like a gap in the middle, and they put a box nearby, so it's like, oh, okay, you put two into the gap, put the box there, fill in the gap, now the ball can go. Like, that's as simple as I've seen it so far. But even little things like that, you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like, this is like, you know, it's not, at least so far, I haven't seen anything that has like broken my mind, but it's like just enough of a like, I guess, enough resistance to where it's not just like easy and basic, I guess. But I like everything so far that I've played has just been so delightful. Like, it is like a genuinely nice world to occupy, and the gameplay, even though nothing has like challenged me, it's like it's like constant dopamine hits, which I guess is sort of like in that Genshin formula. Like, when you get like a meter fulfilled, you're like, hell yeah, and you cash that in, and you get all your little like money and upgrade materials, and then you unlock another dress, and you can make Nikki look as like, you can make her look super regal. My Nikki looks pretty cool. You can make her look kind of like edgy if you want her to, which is kind of where she's at right now. Like, I call it like edgy glamorous is kind of where she's at. Got like some black and red. Changed her hair. She kind of looks like a glamorous version of the main character from Kill la Kill. Is what I'm going for.
All right.
All right.
You mentioned like a scissor group there too. Which
Yeah.
is funny.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
But yeah, the thing they've been vague about the free to play of it all, right? They haven't really committed one way or another, which is like, it scares is a strong word, but like if this is full free to play, like if it is a Genshin Impact, I'm probably not even gonna play, if I'm being honest, you know. But if it's a premium game, I'm like way more interested.
Yeah, they still have not said it. Like, I've looked it up, and they have not like confirmed what the sort of model of this game is. It just a paid thing, or is it free to
Are
play?
you doing gacha dresses?
Yeah,
You're trying to pull 5
There hasn't been any
five-star
gacha.
outfits.
It's been like you just either earn it, and like the skill tree tells you exactly what you're gonna get, and it just here's the materials you need. And there's like shopkeepers that just sell stuff, so you can be like, oh, this guy has this, I'll just buy it. But I haven't seen, there has not been any sort of like roulette elements so far.
Okay, that's cool. That's good. That inspires some
Yeah.
confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, but like for it being in beta, and also maybe for me, this is a game that I question just like if it was actually real, honestly, because it was just, like seeing it a year ago, like, this looks cool. I don't know why. I file this away into games where I'll believe it where I see it. I think we all have the list of games, and like so far for it, I have no idea when this is actually coming out, but it's like very polished so far. Like I mentioned before, it looks nice, it plays well, and like even last night I was up later than I thought it would be. I was like, you know what? I think I'm done, and then I would see something like a Whim Star in the distance and be like, you know, I think I'm gonna go get that, because it's just kind of fun to just like traverse this very pretty and pleasant world. So honestly, I'm having fun with it. We'll see how long that lasts if I get my fill of it in this beta, but like it's fun so far.
It's funny to hear you describe that moment where you stayed up late last night, Marcus. Because it's like I've had the exact same thing in Elden Ring for like a week, you know, where it's like just the polar opposite, where it's like, oh, what is that pleasant thing in the distance? Where I'm like, what is that horrible monstrosity in the distance? I'm gonna go see if it will kill me. And it's like, and it seems like Infinity Nikki is like the literal opposite.
Yeah, it's fun. Maybe that's why I'm also enjoying it, having like spent so much time reviewing Elden Ring. Like, this is just the hard opposite of like everything here is just very nice.
You're purifying yourself.
I am. I put on my purifying dress, and all of the hardships of Elden Ring are slowly melting away. But I think I like it as like an after work like chill pill.
Yeah,
it's kind of how I appreciate it too. Like, I'm just gonna run around, do some like simple puzzle solving, talk to some interesting characters, and go fishing, and I'm like, I can feel the stress melting away as I'm playing this game.
Did you ever play the Style Savvy series at all?
No, I don't think I've played anything like
you should
dress uppy.
You should, if you can, pick up like one of the 3DS games, Trendsetters or Fashion Forward.
Is there, was there a recent one of those for Switch, or am I thinking of a different game?
There was. It's like a spiritual successor. I heard middling things about it.
Fashion Dreamer, right?
Fashion Dreamer,
which is not that series, but similar.
I think it's somehow connected, but I don't know all the details. So, but yeah, I would try one of those 3DS games. Try Trendsetters or Fashion Forward. They're very like kind of similar to what you're talking about, like getting specific styles together for like what someone wants, and you dress them up in it, like depending on what they what kind of vibes that they were looking for, and then see if you're successful with it. You kind of own a boutique, and you bring in designer clothes and stuff for you to carry to then sell to people. It's a very fun and cute series that I would definitely recommend if Infinity Nikki sounds good to anybody out there. I would check out one of those.
Okay. You got Matt, Infinity Nikki on your radar?
So, I mean, I saw the trailer, right? The last State of Play had the trailer for it. I mean, genuinely, I had not heard of the series until Blake on an episode of the Game Informer show, like, lost his ish about it. But I mean, it looks fun. And, like, actually hearing your report about how it's a palate cleanser really, like, interests me. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the real world is kind of bleak at the moment. And so anything bright and colorful, I mean, this would be related to something I played that we'll talk about a little later, but like I'm starved for like really positive, bright colored, excited games. It's why I loved the recent Nintendo Direct, because between Zelda and Mario and Luigi Brothership, it's like, yes, happy games about cool things with bright colors. I'll take it. But it looks fun. I mean, I'm kind of where Kyle is. Like, I don't know, free to play games kind of turn me off just because of the gotcha of it all. I have trouble ignoring it and like not necessarily giving into it, but it just feels omnipresent. But if this is like a premium game that I can like pay a full price for and get the whole thing, I'd be definitely curious to jump in and see, because it sounds like it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully it continues to come together. I'm curious to see what the feedback is from other players that have gotten into it. But it has no release window still. Hopefully it'll come out this year, or I can't imagine it. It's got to be next year at the earliest, I would imagine. But
Yeah.
we shall see. But Matt, while I've already got you talking, you have been playing Alan Wake 2's, is it Night Springs? The
Night
DLC?
Springs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet. I haven't downloaded it. I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but I'm excited to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, I mean, the quick and dirty of it is I loved it, but I've also become a heavy Remedy sicko over the last couple of years. So I played Control for the first time maybe around the time of the pandemic, a couple years after it came out, and fell in love with it, and then immediately streamed Alan Wake 1 afterwards. And when I realized that then the DLC was coming out for Control, that they were connected, I was like, oh, this is one big world. Like, as an X-Files fan, I was like, oh, weird, creepy stuff, all connected, I'm in. And so when Alan Wake 2 came out, and I'm not a huge survival horror person, I was like, maybe it'll be too scary. And it was very scary for me because I'm a coward, but I still loved it. And so, like, I've just been riding the train. I played Max Payne 1 and 2 for the first time this year. Like, I'm just really all in on Remedy. And so when I knew we were getting DLC, and not only DLC, but DLC based on the Night Springs thing. For those who don't know, within the world of Alan Wake, Night Springs is this, like, homage to the Twilight Zone, essentially. It's these short, little 5-minute things about a story in a small town, and they actually show up on the TVs in both games, and you can just kind of stand there and watch them, and they're usually pretty entertaining. And so this was like kind of building from that. Mr. Dorr, who is the host in The Dark Place, is hosting 3 episodes of Night Springs, one based around Rose, who is the Alan Wake superfan who works in the diner in the first and second game. The second story is about Jessie Faden. It's a prequel story about her looking for her brother. I don't want to say too much more than that. And then the third story is about Sheriff Breaker, sort of. Tim Breaker. Again, not wanting to spoil it, but what I will say is they were great. They were about 45 minutes to an hour a piece, like kind of perfect bite-sized things. I kind of wanted a little more, but I know that we're also getting the Lake House, I think this fall is when it's supposed to come out. And so that is also supposed to be like a bigger chunk like of the main narrative. But I love them. They were great. They're all very different. What I loved about Rose's story is, so you're playing as this obsessed fan of Alan Wake who has to come to his rescue, and it's kind of like the delusions of a superfan. And so it's very B-movie, cheesy, Evil Dead kind of like storytelling that I really loved. And then the Jessie Faden one, like I said, is a prequel. It's before Control. She doesn't have her powers. She's looking for her brother. And that one was really more on the creepy side and more in line with Alan Wake 2's base kind of creepiness. And then the third one, the Tim Breaker story, is just bonkers. Like, I don't know what else to say. You know how in every Remedy game there's a bonkers moment that you're like, I can't believe Remedy did this and it worked. The whole Tim Breaker episode is that. Like, And to reveal any of it here would be a huge spoiler, in the same way that nobody wanted to talk about Herald of Light for a while because it's such an important moment, and I'm still hesitant to. This third episode of the DLC is like, the whole thing is literally a WTF Herald of Light kind of moment, and so I can't recommend it enough. The cast is still doing great stuff.
Do you play them in order, or can you like skip to one, or
so
like,
you can play them in any order?
You can. Okay.
Yeah, they're episodic. You can play them in any order. They're not through the main story. There's like a separate DLC menu, and you select each one. And so you can play them in any order. So you could go to because they're not connected to each other either. They all have implications to the main meta narrative of Alan Wake and Control in really interesting ways. But none of them are connected to each other. So you can play them in any order. So yeah, I would recommend the Tim Breaker story first. I think it's Time something. I don't remember what it's named off the top of my head. But maybe it's called Time Breakers, actually. I think I can double check that.
It's another Quantum Break reference.
Yeah, so the different chapters are called Number One Fan, North Star, and then Time Breaker. And they're all phenomenal. They all have a little like intro thing by Mr. Door where he comes out, the live action actor comes out and like sets up the premise of what the episode's about, and then it cuts to like a title screen and then pans down. It's very, very Twilight Zone in kind of the best way. And yeah, it's a blast. And it's all third person. It's mostly third person shooter with some other surprises. Especially Marcus, if you played Alan Wake, I know you and Kyle are both big Alan Wake fans. If you enjoyed Alan Wake 2 on any level, you should definitely play the DLC. It's absolutely worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, but also just the seeing that Jesse is in this game is maybe most exciting. Because as much as I do like the Alan Wake games, I think I'm a bigger Control fan. Like, I loved Control.
Yeah.
So like any new Control stuff, or like anything that could, like, I want to ask you stuff, and I'm like holding my tongue. Of, like anything that gets us closer to Control 2 in like the tiniest ways is like exciting to me. So that's awesome. I forget, this isn't free DLC, right?
No, it's part of if you have the premium version.
Because I have the premium pack, so I just want it for other people.
Yeah. So I actually didn't have the premium pack. I bought the base game, but you can just upgrade to the digital premium version for like $10 on PS5. That's what I played it on, and you get all the DLC, including the Lake House. So I did that since I was going to want to play the rest of the DLC that's coming out anyway. So it's not free. I don't know how much it is on its own off the top of my head, but I assume there's like a separate season pass you could buy if you want, or the upgrade to the premium is the same thing as the season pass. I'm not positive.
The DLC plus add-ons is currently $20, at least on the Epic Game Store. So
cool.
Okay. What were you gonna say, Kyle?
Oh, I like Remedy a lot, and all their DLCs are always like good. Like, I liked all the Alan Wake 1 DLCs. I liked all the Control DLCs. I do want to play this. I came in like lower than most on Alan Wake 2, but I still
The internet said you hated it, actually.
Yeah, I despise that game, and I think it's a waste of everyone's time in general. No, I like that game. And I think to like revisit it in this way would be like the perfect. I think it sounds great. Like, I really do want to find some time for it. But guys, I mean, no one else in this house is gonna beat Elden Ring's DLC, so
it's true.
Someone's
got
to
do it. Yeah,
my wife and daughter aren't gonna do it, and it's got to be.
You haven't given the control to your daughter. Say, can you beat this impossible final boss, please?
Yeah, I think she can do it. Gotta start the training early.
Recently, we played. They had the Jurassic Park collection that came out, and I gave her like the Genesis Jurassic Park game, and I was like,
that one's a classic.
If you beat like the first like 3 or 4 level, I think we had like a line where I was like, you beat the first 3 levels, I'll give you $20. And she was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. You know? She wasn't able to do it, but she really tried. She gave it
for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Did she beat one level at least?
I think she beat the first level. Yeah.
Yeah, that Genesis.
Hard.
It is that Genesis.
Hard.
When I was a kid, there was my apartment complex I was living at the time had kind of like a clubhouse that had like a Genesis and like a Super Nintendo setup for like kids. And like I remember they had that game, and I would hang out there after school. And I happened to go one day when it was like dark. It was like kind of stormy out, and no one was in there but me. And I fired up that game, and I forgot like that intro used to terrify me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like
creepy.
especially in that environment. Like I'm gonna not my house in this dark room alone, and then that intro starts, and I would want to like skip past it.
Yeah, Marcus, you and I are around the same age, I think, and like that is a 16-bit game that is like seared into my memory. Like playing it at friends' house, you know,
Same.
and like that creepy. Yeah, it totally stuck with me. Yeah.
That's
Oh, and
that's
for
weird
the
that you guys
record, my daughter is quite good at video games. She can totally destroy me at Fortnite. Like she's good. Sorry, John, please.
Oh, I was gonna say it's weird that you guys have the Genesis one that's seared into your minds when I have the Super Nintendo one.
Oh, see, it's Genesis for me too.
Interesting.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but that was
Genesis
the
is
thing,
the
I
one
had-
that had the Raptor and Grant, right? You
Yeah.
switch between.
Okay.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
were there differences between the two?
Oh yeah, they're completely different games. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I've
don't
never
play as the
played the
Raptor in the SNES one, from what I remember.
No,
The
right?
so
SNES
the-
one is like an overhead.
It's like a top down. You
Oh.
are exploring the park. It's like part adventure game. You'll go into like buildings and it'll turn into first person, and you're trying to find like key cards and.
Oh wow,
like,
I've
getting
never
around.
played this.
It is
that one.
completely different.
It's fun to get that collection. I think it was Limited Run Games put it out recently, and like go through
Yeah.
all that era of Jurassic Park games. So yeah, I had a Super Nintendo. That's what I had. I would rent that Jurassic Park game, and the Genesis was what I would play at friends' house, and I was like always like, they got the better one. They got the better Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
the Super Nintendo one's like impossible.
Yeah.
Like I could not wrap my tiny brain around that.
Same, totally.
I still can't.
yeah, to this day.
Before we move on, can I get a quick temperature check? Are we excited for that new Jurassic? Is it World still movie?
I don't even
Whatever
know.
they're calling it.
I'm so out of the
They
loop.
announced someone for it, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Who's
God,
in
it was
that?
someone big. I forgot.
The answer is
Alright,
no.
someone
To be
Google it.
clear.
Yeah. I've not watched the Jurassic World movie. I love the first two, but then I haven't really watched any since.
And the first Jurassic World's fine,
Fine.
and then it kind of goes off a cliff. From
Yeah,
there.
the second one is it turns into like Resident Evil at some point, but with dinosaurs.
It does.
Okay,
Yeah.
So they made a Dino Crisis movie.
But it's not as good as you would think.
No, but also it's kind of weird in a good way at the same time. It's not a good movie. I never saw Dominion.
Yeah, that's the
so
one where they
Dominion
brought back
is-
the old cast, right?
The
Yeah.
Dominion is very bad, and also
Oh,
very
no.
very long, which makes it worse. It's like 2.5 hours of
Yeah.
crap. But yeah.
So yeah, by the way, Jurassic World 4 directed by Gareth Edwards.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Sure.
Did, like,
Sure.
Godzilla and Rogue One
Yeah,
and stuff.
I'm in.
So
I'm in.
yeah.
They cast someone, didn't they?
Gareth Edwards.
Scarlett Johansson.
That's who I'm thinking of. Yes,
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson was
But-
tied to it.
Not to
Yeah.
go too much on a sidebar, but like the problem with those recent movies is like the joy of those first. I like the second one a lot as well. The joy of those first two movies is like people just in a bad situation dealing with real dinosaurs, and increasingly they're just becoming like superhero movies where they're
Yeah.
it's like, and they were inventing dinosaurs that didn't exist, and I was like, that's not the joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
whole,
that's
the whole lesson of the first one is we shouldn't have meddled with Mother Nature. And so, like, yeah, for the subsequent movies, yes, we're going to meddle with it more and
Yeah,
make
but
them more dangerous.
Weird.
I just like the smaller scale of like a group of people dealing with dinosaurs. You know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
the later movies are just so big. They're about like the business of the park.
It's like
and
the-
how
it-
it's
but it
affecting
becomes
the
like a
global
global-
economy. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
just want to see like 3 people running down a scary hallway from raptors. Like let's focus
Yeah,
on
like,
how
like,
do you
the
deal with
whole-
a brontosaurus? How do you deal with a stampede?
Yes,
How do you
exactly.
Deal with a spitter?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I'm an
and plus how
OG
they-
fan of the books, so like I love
Yeah,
the
I
first
read
two
those
Michael
too,
Crichton books. Yeah, I have a hardcover collection from Barnes and Noble of the first 2 books, which that's part of the problem. Also, I think is they ran out of books to support
Yeah,
these
right,
movies.
sure.
But like I think the first movie is kind of a perfect movie.
Oh, yeah.
and the second
Oh, yeah,
one's
it's-
fun.
yeah.
The second one's fun, and then the third one is awful. Oh my god, it was so bad. I was so upset. I was just old enough when that came out that I was like, oh, movies can be bad.
Yeah,
This is a bummer.
they should have made this.
Same,
the things I like can let me down. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our Jurassic Park TED Talk.
Yeah, I'll have to put a timestamp for that.
We've decided that the first movie is still the best one, believe it or not.
hot take.
Hot take.
I
Super
do like
hot
the
take.
second one though. I'll fight for the second one.
I do
No,
like the.
Up
I
until
do
like the
defend
last
second
15
one.
minutes, then I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are right. But for like
You
the
know what?
first
Sure.
like 2/3 of that movie, I really like a lot.
Honestly, at least I would say the last 15 minutes are better now because Jurassic World takes that and just takes
it
that
worse.
idea
Yeah.
and just blows it up in a way where it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is actually pretty tame by comparison
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So, I have been playing, or I started playing over the weekend, a really cool game I've been meaning to get to called Cryptmaster. Have you guys played this
I heard
thing?
about this. Yeah,
I haven't
Is this
played
typing?
it, but
Right?
It is typing.
Okay. Yes,
it's a
I've heard
cool
of this, yeah.
it actually came out on May 9th, which was the like Indie Apocalypse Day, where like all the big celebrated indie games all came out the same day.
Yeah.
This was like the one that slipped.
They gave
by
me
me.
nightmares that day.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah,
wild
over at the
day.
Indian
Yeah,
Informer,
but-
I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, this is your
It was a
E3. It was like
it was his E3.
Having flashbacks to May 9th.
It's like the E3 of video games.
It's like the summer
it was
Game
like
Fest.
I think it was this and wasn't 1,000 Times Resist that same day?
Yes,
too?
Yeah,
which I
and-
just bought in the Steam Summer Sale and haven't started yet.
Was
but I'm
Animal
very
Well
excited
that same
for.
day, too?
Animal
Animal
Well,
was also
Little Kitty, Big City.
Yeah.
Indica,
That-
right?
Indica.
Yeah.
those
Crow
really
Country,
good,
I think. Crow Country too.
Yeah, Crow Country.
Yeah, hell of a day. We'll
Bonkers.
never forget it. So yes, I because of that, like this one was like on the back burner, but I started playing it this weekend, and it's a first person dungeon crawler that is played where like all your actions and like not even just interactions, but just like physical actions are done through typing. So kind of like Typing of the Dead
Yeah.
style a bit, where you play as a dead person, basically, like you're in the underworld, and the Cryptmaster is like this like powerful being sort of like hooks up with you and is like, hey, we can work together and get to the surface, we can escape together if you help me out. So you wind up helping this guy, and you're pretty much like, you're a party of adventurers. So it's like an RPG where you got 4 different characters, and you're making your way through levels of the underworld to try to get to the surface, and along the way you're trying to regain memories of who you were, as well as like what like your attack and all your different abilities for each of the party members. And so the way you do that is that you're finding these chests, and when you're opening the chest, the Cryptmaster will sort of like, it'll have an item tied to one of the party members' past, whether it's like a shield or something like a piece of paper, or just like mundane things, because you have no memory of anything. And then the Cryptmaster will describe it for you. Like you have to try to guess what it is, because he doesn't know either, and he's like remembering along with you. So it's this fun little game where he's like, you can type basic commands like look or taste or smell, and then he'll do that, and he'll be like, oh, this thing is hard like metal, or it feels like a cross shape, I guess, I don't know, or it smells like wet fur. And then you have to type in what you think it is, and every guess kind of fills a letter on sort of the available slots, so kind of like Hangman style. And so you can kind of be like, oh, it's a sword, and then be like, oh, okay, sword, and then the letters from that will be added to the blank sort of like letter spaces over each individual character, and then filling those up unlocks an ability for that character. So if you fill up all the spaces for like the warrior guy, he'll unlock the ability to hit, like literally just like he can hit things now, and now you can actually engage in combat. Or like the sorceress, she has like zap, is like she can shoot lightning. So like you see the letters being filled out, and then you can kind of figure out like what you need to unlock an attack of like, okay, I got A and P, what could be the first letter? Like what word? Tap? I don't know. Like what would make sense? And like all the interactions are like that. Like you're like when you're fighting enemies, it's like a first person combat. You're just typing in the attack that you have unlocked. Like I have for the warrior, I have hit, and I have boot, and boot like knocks them down. So it's like, I guess, slightly more powerful. One of the other characters, who is like a mystic, has yell, because like all the attacks have a cooldown, but using his yell eliminates the cooldown, but it itself operates on a cooldown. So there's like some interesting timing of when you can do abilities, and you can attack like with all 4 of them kind of at the same time, and it kind of comes down to how fast you can type. Like if you can just like type out all their attacks at the same time, you can kind of like unleash them in succession and try to like knock out the enemy before they can eliminate you, which all the party members have their own HP. It's pretty much the letters of their names. So someone that has like a longer name will last longer than someone that has like 3 letters in their name. But like the attacks are randomized, so you never know really who's gonna, what party member the enemy is going to target. But like the freeform nature of this game is really fun, where like the database of words that must be in here and how characters react to what you type must be pretty vast, because a lot of the interactions are pretty freeform of like they'll ask you something and they just say type something, and you're like, okay, and you can only type like a word. But like I found like there are these altars that are like your checkpoints, and there's like this goddess of the living who's like this really high and mighty kind of like figure who the Cryptmaster is like on bad terms with. And the first time you get to her altar, the Cryptmaster's like, oh, you can defile this and then we can use it on our own because only living people can use it. But if you defile it, we can use it. And they just say, type in a word that would defile this. and I typed in on both occasions like farts. Because I wonder, like, I don't know if it'll count for that. And as soon as I typed in fart, you just hear like a giant fart sound effect and like poop sprinkles. And then she flips out at you like, what are you doing? Like, and it like destroys her altar. The next time I found one, I just typed in pee just to see what happened. And the Cryptmaster's like, oh, you're nasty. All right. This game has an incredible sense of humor, by the way. Like
this game right now.
Like it's got a great sense of humor. Like some of the characters I've met are silly. Like there was like getting to like another section of the underworld, there's like these giant eyeballs that are tasked with keeping out the dead. They're like, you can't, and they're like idiots basically. Like they have these big booming voices and they're like, hello, I'm not allowed to let dead people go by. Are you dead? And then you can type in yes or no and then try to BS your way through it. But other times it's like, I don't believe you, or, you know, you got to prove that you're not, you know, you're alive or whatever. And then I met a rat, because there's like these, I'm in this area where there's like a bunch of just like sentient rats hanging out. And one of them was in a cage and he's kind of shady and he's like, hey, you know, help me out. And he's like, hey, you trying to get past that eyeball door? If you just tell it, because it was like guarding a tomb for like royalty that I needed to access. Mm-hmm. And he's like, if you tell the door that you're there to rob it, it'll like let you in, because it acts tough, but it's like a huge, like it's a pansy. Like if you say you're a robber, it's going to open up because it's terrified of you. So I was like, okay, I don't have anything else to go on. So I go there and type it in. And the eyeball is just like, why would you tell me that? I'm not going to let you in. like, did you just admit that in front of me? And you can hear in the background, the rat is like laughing hysterically that you actually did this.
That's so good.
That sounds amazing.
It's like, yeah, it's a really fun game. And I'm liking the sort of like scavenger hunt aspect of it, of like, you can see all the like empty slots of abilities that each party member has. And like the more you engage with like combat or just other sort of like word games, you're gaining more letters to try to fill out their attacks. So every time I see like, oh, I'm missing one more letter for like the mystic guy, and I know what it is, because I have enough now to know what it spells out. So I just need to find an enemy that will drop an S. Because every time you kill an enemy, your loot is sort of like, they give you a random assortment of letters to choose. And then, you know, either the available slots you're trying to fill have those letters and you see them go in there, or they don't and they just kind of disappear. So it's like a guessing game a little bit. But like I found myself really like that is sort of my driving force, is like, I want to get all these letters. I want to make all these words. I want to see what all the other attacks or whatever abilities I have, because there's so many of them, it looks like. And, you know, I would like to do more than just like hit people and Spartan kick them. So, but it's got a cool art direction. It's kind of got like a black and white kind of sketchbook look to it. The closest comparison I have is like, if anyone played Mundawn from a few years ago, they had that kind of like sketchbooky look to it. It reminds me of that a little bit.
How do you spell that? Mundawn. I'm gonna look it up.
Oh, Mundaun. It was a game that I reviewed when it came out. A horror game. But yeah, it's got kind of like a 3D kind of like sketchbook kind of look to it that I like. But yeah, between like that and the humor and the voice acting, like it's a very cool game, and it's very funny so far. So I'm gonna stick with it and see how far it goes.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Speaking of weird and creative adventure games, Matt, you have been playing Immortality, which was one of our top 10 games of, what was it, 2022 when it came out? I think. That sounds right.
Yeah, it was either that or last year. I can't keep it straight.
It definitely wasn't last year.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I can never remember what came out
when. It was 2022.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of games that also that Blake Hester went insane for, but I love this game too. Sam Barlow joint. You got to it for the first time. How's it been treating you?
I mean, so it's funny. I had always wanted to play it. It had been on my backlog for a while, and then we're recording amidst the Steam Summer Sale, which I always say, this time I'm not going to buy any games. This time I don't need more games. I have like 300 games in my backlog. I'm good. And then
we all say thanks.
Yeah.
We all lie to ourselves.
And then I look at my wish list and see how many games are $5, $10, and go, well. And so I got like 7 games for $75, which is not bad at all. And one of those games was Immortality, which I'd wanted to play for a while. And yeah, I booted it up, and like it's funny. I add it to my list of games I want to talk so little about because I don't want to ruin the experience for anyone else. It's it's Before Your Eyes, it's Slay the Princess, like all these games that like the more you know, the less of surprises there are. But like I've always wanted to play one of Sam Barlow's games. I've followed their existence and watched trailers and stuff, and just never got around to them. And this one was like the game, and so I finally picked it up and like. The first time something in quotes happens and you're like, wait a minute. Like I nearly jumped out of my chair. Like I expressed earlier.
Before we go further, have we all played it? So I finished it.
I never finished it.
It's too late for me.
Yeah, it didn't click with me, the baseline gameplay. Like I just couldn't quite like lock into it. But I know the full sort of picture. Because when the end of the year discussions over on, I think it was on MinMax, I was basically like, yeah, let me have it. Tell me what this whole thing is, you know?
Okay, I'm just wondering, like, what's our level of, like, spoiler territory?
Yeah, we can always avoid spoilers.
Yeah, and we won't spoil it here. But
Yeah. But like so for those who don't know, it's you're playing a game that's essentially an archival tool of this actress's 3 films, Marissa Marcel. And like she disappeared or something happened. Like you don't really know the whole story. You just know these films are either unreleased or I think they're unreleased. And you're like going through the archival footage.
Yeah, or like unfinished.
Unfinished.
Yeah.
And so like you start with just a clip from a talk show appearance, and then from there you can like zoom in on frozen images, and like if you zoom in on the plant, it takes you to another scene from another film that has a plant in it and zooms out, and you can watch that clip. And you're building this library of clips to like understand what happened to this woman, but that's kind of all you know. And as you do that, stuff happens, and like it seems something's amiss, and like everyone told me it's not a scary game, and to all those people, y'all are liars.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, who said that?
Dude, dirty liars.
In good faith, yeah. It is. It's not a horror game.
No,
like categorically speaking.
No,
but
it's creepy, and like so you start to see things in the clips, and you start to like stuff starts to happen. I don't even want to spoil much more beyond that, but like. Mm-hmm. It's all full motion video. It's all fully acted with incredible actors. Manon Gage plays the lead, Marissa Marcel, and she's incredible in all the different stuff. It's like 3 different movies from different periods. One's like an old school religious movie. One's a like crime thriller, like 70s kind of crime thriller, and then the third film is like a modern like pop star kind of murder thriller. And like just like her range alone is incredible, but the whole cast is awesome. And like there's behind the scenes stuff both within the films and like talking to the actors and directors, and it's just kind of a wild accomplishment as a game, because like I also like you felt, Kyle, like I thought that's how I was going to be, because typically games like this, like FMV games, I don't always get into. Like everyone's played Night Trap. It's fine. I played Night Trap as an adult for the first time. I went, this was a problem? This is nothing. This is nothing.
Now, if you play Plumbers Don't Wear Ties,
well, that's a different story.
Some spicy stuff.
But like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get into this. And like, I even said to my friend who had been pushing me to buy it, like, oh yeah, I picked it up. I'll give it a try. I'll play it for like a half hour, and then I'll move on to 1,000 Times Resist, which is what I was really planning on playing that night. Next thing I knew, 3 hours had gone by in these different like chunks. And I was like, oh, oh no!
I'd see you tweeting about it like all night. You're like, oh man, Immortality. I just got to this one part. I'm like, glad they're liking it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then so I bought it on Sunday, played it for 3 hours Sunday night, and then yesterday, as soon as I got home from work, I played the rest of the game and beat it. Like, I just dialed in and got locked in, and it's great. I can totally see someone bouncing off it if like the mechanics aren't, or you're not like maybe a movie buff, or maybe you're just not in the mood to watch a bunch of stuff, because it's a lot of watching.
It's kind of it's passive by design, right? I mean, that's what it is.
It's also dependent on like there's almost like a luck factor of like depending on how long it takes you to find something of interest. Like I remember it took like talking to Blake and other people on staff at the time of like people find the thing sooner than others, and like I think that's the hook of the game. Like once you find that thing that goes, okay, there's more here than I thought there was, like because I found it pretty quick, and then other people are like, oh, it took me like 2 hours before I found the weird stuff. So and then maybe in that time you might have bounced. You're like, I don't get it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. But I really dug it, clearly, because I beat it in like a little less than 6 hours, because I started jumping clips quickly, and if you do that, you can get to credits a little faster if you don't watch every clip. But like I blew through it, and then I went back in after I finished it, like after credits roll, and went, well, what other things can I find? Like, and that's the sign of a game that leaves a mark a little bit, is like, can I play this thing right away after just finishing it, or keep like wanting to find stuff? And so I'll probably go back to find the clips that I'm missing. But I was absolutely infatuated with it for 2 days, and it's going to be on my game of the year list for this year because I played it this year and it's a new game. I won't put old games that I play again, but like if it's a game I've never played before, especially something like this, I will. Like I played Cocoon for the first time this year too, and that game also blew me away. Another big indie game. So yeah, I really dug it. And I'll have to DM you, Marcus, after the podcast. But did you find this? Did you see this thing? Because like, there's some wild stuff in that game.
There is, yeah. I saw online that Sam Barlow and Man Engage were at SGF. Did you guys see them?
Yeah, I think Sam Barlow was there because of isn't Sam Barlow doing Blumhouse stuff?
Yes, he's got like two games he's working
Project
on.
C and Project D.
Yeah, C is the Blumhouse one.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw pictures. I didn't know if you guys had.
I did not clock them while I was there, but
okay.
I do not know what they look like. So otherwise, I would have.
I feel like that would be wild. That would be wild to see Man Engage having so much immortality, because it's just like, oh, that's just the video game character that is a person.
Yeah.
You're just like,
it really is.
Yeah, like I'm gonna walk backwards and see if you're actually something else.
She's also a streamer, apparently. I followed her on Twitter the other day because I wanted to see her other work and check out some other stuff. She was on Dave, the FX show, and like she's a streamer. She was streaming Animal Well, I believe, which is awesome. I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah, speaking of a game full of secrets.
Oh my god,
too many.
Matt, you've also been playing Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, the Switch remaster.
I would say remake safely. I think.
See, I'm going by Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo has been saying.
I know.
Yeah,
you know what's fun?
I'd go remake too.
Yeah, did you guys watch the Capcom Next thing that happened yesterday at the time
kind
of
of,
recording?
yeah.
No,
because there was a whole for the Dead Rising segment, like Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. They spent like a whole chunk of that thing questioning their own title, where they were like, wait a second, because they were going through like, here's all the improvements that it has, and then the narrator's like, wait a second, this sounds like it should be a remake, what's the deal? And they're like interviewing the three like leads on it, trying to get them to justify why it's called a remaster, only for the outcome to be it's a remaster. And it's why did we even
they're
bring
calling
it up?
a deluxe remaster, but it's in an entirely different engine from before.
Yeah.
Like this thing was basically rebuilt.
Yeah,
It's
they
pretty
start
much a
from
remake.
0, I wonder.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it.
Because Paper
It's got
Mario
it
doesn't
runs
feel
at
like they
4K
started from
60.
0.
No, it's
No.
but like it looks more graphically impressive. Like I looked up like
looks
screenshots
great.
of the original, and it looks so much better. Also, like God bless them, they added a fast travel system. It's just a couple pipes that like take you to the different areas. But like I remember the original version of that game being such a slog, like because there's a lot of back and forth fetch questing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. Kyle, didn't you review it for Game Informer?
Yeah. That was the first time I'd ever played it, was the Switch version. And yeah, I liked it too. I wouldn't go as strong as love, but I had a great time with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think besides my favorite like Mario and Luigi games, it's one of my favorites. I mean, Super Mario RPG, both the remake and the original, are always going to be my favorite because they were kind of my earliest, even if they're not the best. But
I
like
think we're in the same boat there. Yeah.
But the writing is top notch in this game, and yeah, I beat it. It took me quite a few weeks just because I wanted to kind of take my time with it, play it in small chunks. But like, I was afraid that because I try and like Super Mario RPG, the remake, I knew I was going to replay, and like there are a few other remakes that come out. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to play this because I really want to spend time with it. But for the most part, if I've played it and enjoyed it, unless there's a lot of new stuff, I tend to like pass. I'm like, there's so many new games to play an old new game. It's like, do I really have the time? But I'm glad I picked this up. I picked up a physical copy, and like I had a blast. Like, it's so funny. It's so well paced. You know, I remember you, Kyle, saying some of the Bowser and Peach stuff is a little slow, but I think it's quick enough that it doesn't really impede it. It just does feel like a bit of an interruption to the story.
Yeah, the Peach stuff I didn't mind so much. It was the Bowser stuff that, like, even by the end, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, why is Bowser... We're just showing him goof around and, like, get into trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. I'm glad that I revisited it. And it has... I'm wearing, as the video viewers can see, I'm wearing my tie-dye Vivian shirt. I'm so happy that trans narrative was, like, translated properly in this version and kept in this version.
Do you want to explain that a little bit? Because it was in the original translation, they basically erased it, right? And then now they've kind of made it accurate to the Japanese release, right?
Right, yeah. In the original Japanese version, she talks about being a brother but feeling more like a sister and like getting picked on and stuff. I don't remember the exact quote, but then in this version and then in the English translation, they kind of obfuscated, removed it. But in this English translation and the original Japanese again for the remake, they put that like narrative thread back in, and it's like a big piece of why she's being bullied. It's funny. A friend of mine said, "This is the first time I think anyone's put transphobia back in a game," because it's her sisters were transphobic to her, and like they put that narrative back in the game, and I think it's representation on any level is important, and it's not like they don't make a huge deal of it. It's part of the narrative. It's part of this character's identity. And Vivian's also one of my favorite characters. I really like her beyond that. But that was also a big part of why I wanted to own this version, is just that as well, that's in this base version. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little higher on it than Kyle is, but also when I first played this, I didn't think I would ever see another Mario and Luigi game again. And then lo and behold, a month later, they announced it, and like, still don't know who's making that game, which is a giant question mark, but like,
never will.
But
AI.
Well, until we beat it and look at the credits.
Right, exactly.
That's the reward.
But like, that's my favorite, one of my favorite RPG franchises. I loved every one of those games, even the ones that folks were like less on. Like, I loved Dream Team. I didn't mind Paper Jam.
I like Paper Jam.
Yeah. But like, Superstar Saga, I think, is one of the best RPGs ever made and a favorite Mario game. And so the fact that we're getting Brothership and we're getting a new one is like, well, I really love Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Probably drop a couple notches after I play another Mario and Luigi game, because that's the like, the Paper Mario franchise has not, like, Thousand Year Door is incredible compared to the rest, but like the first one's good, and then the rest are okay. Origami King was actually a lot of fun. I wish the combat was better.
Origami King.
Yeah, the story was great. I just wish the combat was better in that game. But yeah, it was fun to revisit, and it looks great on Switch. And if you've never played them, I think it's definitely worth your time, especially based on the stuff that's coming out this year. I think it's still a contender for like a really solid Nintendo title that came out this year.
Yeah, I still want to play it. I always feel bad when I'm with our Paper Mario fans, because the only one I've ever beaten is apparently the one everyone hates the most, which is Sticker Star.
Yeah,
Sticker Star. I was like, oh, I beat that one, but I've never played Thousand Year Door, which is the one everyone likes. So I'm always like, Sticker Star wasn't so bad, having no like really nothing to compare it to that much. And then everyone's like, what's wrong with you? To give you a break from speaking, Matt, I have an update that I've been meaning to share for several weeks, but it just haven't had the time. But like, if viewers may remember, God, like a month or two ago, I talked about playing Manor Lords. Have y'all played
Sure. It was
Manor
like
Lords?
It was a real-time strategy game, or like a... Yeah.
One of a very popular early access game. Like, it's one of the big ones.
Yeah,
it's still in early access, I believe. But I talked about how I was on the cusp of a bandit apocalypse. Like, I built my happy little town.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, like, everything was going great. And then I got a notification saying, like, hey, the bandits are coming a year from now, like Dragon Ball Z style. Like, the androids are coming.
Train
like,
your children.
Literally, they're like, you have 1 year to prepare for this because I don't have an army. So they're like, you better get ready. So it happened. The year expired. The bandits arrived.
And just be clear, you remained in Super Saiyan form during the duration of that year, right? To sort of acclimate yourself to that higher power level.
Yeah.
If by that you mean somehow screw up everything where winter came and devastated a lot of my my town, and I was struggling to feed everyone, and people died for the first time.
Woof.
And I was so busy trying to feed people and just keep them alive that I had no time to raise a fighting force.
Oh, no.
Delete that save file.
Then, yeah, so by the time spring came around and the bandits came in, they came in like a plague. Like, it was like, I didn't realize this many bandits hung out together. Where because they strike me as more like, maybe no more than a party of four, because, you know, they're thieves. You know, you're not going to hang around them. But no, they were like, they've organized. They swept through my town literally like a plague of locusts and set fire to almost every building that I had. And all of my townspeople are running and screaming, unable to defend themselves. And I'm just watching this play out because I can't do anything.
From your manor.
I don't even have that. I didn't even get to build that yet. So I'm just looking above, like, what has happened? And I just hear people screaming and things burning to the ground. All the things I spent all this time and money putting up, just gone in seconds. And by the time that they finished their little route and, you know, got out of there, like, I think I had like 2 buildings left that had been untouched. One of them, the church, which I guess the bandits are not monsters. They're like, well, we're not going to burn a church down. Come on.
We're not.
But everyone
monsters.
else can. Yeah, but everyone else can die. So I have not. After that happened, I have not played the game because I have not known.
Gee, I wonder why.
I had my Tiger King moment of like, I will never financially recover from this. Like, I really don't know what to do from here because it's like, what do I do? So I'm like contemplating just like
this is going to ruin the tour.
And yeah, pretty much. Like, should I just start over?
This is going to ruin the tour.
So I just wanted to give that closure to people that were like gripped by that just needed to know from a couple months ago what happened. It sucks.
It was devastating. I don't know why you asked me to bring it up. I didn't want to talk about it.
It's still a painful wound that's not quite healed.
Yeah, screw those bandits. They're the worst. Anyway, moving on to happier things. We know Dragon Age, the Veilguard is our latest cover story. If you listened last week, with writer Wesley LeBlanc talked all about it. But, you know, Matt, you host a BioWare-focused podcast.
I do.
And
yeah.
I figured you couldn't resist talking about your thoughts on Dragon Age the Veilguard. And John, feel free to also chime in. I'm not sure what your level of Dragon Age fandom is, but yeah, I would love to know. What are you guys thinking about this game? What do you think of like the weird discourse around it online? Like, where are you at with Dragon Age the Veilguard?
So it's very funny that for those who don't know, who just hear the pitch that I have a BioWare focused podcast, Reignite started as a Mass Effect podcast where me and my co-host Frankie Bradley Lestrange created Shepard in our own image and then played through the game making choices as if we were Shepard and then discussing why we made those choices, why we fell in love with those characters, the relationships, we explored our queerness and like just relationship building in general through the game. It was really fun. And then when we got to Andromeda, I had never played it before, but my co-host had. And so they were like, well, let's play for the show. And we did, and it was a blast. And so after that, we're like, well, we don't want to stop. Well, I guess we'll do Dragon Age next. And so we're 6 seasons in now. We're in Dragon Age 2. We just started Dragon Age 2 as of recording. Our 4th episode is going to air the same day as this drops. And we have never been current with a BioWare release in the history of this podcast, except for the Legendary Edition. Like, when we were doing Mass Effect 3, I think is when that came out. But like, there was no news to talk about. It was a remaster. Like, yay, we get them on new platforms. We did a round table with new players and old players to talk about it, but like, it wasn't a new game. And so this one, like in our episode that comes out the same day as this, we're like, oh, I guess we have to do a new segment. We should talk about the new Dragon Age game. We're doing a Dragon Age podcast. And I mean, I'll say what everyone else has already said. The Veilguard is a dumb name. It's just a dumb name. Dreadwolf was so much better.
It was so cool. Do you think they made merch? Like, do you think it's like,
yeah.
Super Bowl teams that don't win and they have all those T-shirts?
All those Dreadwolf T-shirts around?
Yeah, because I would love one.
They're at Goodwill now.
Yeah, right. Just a pile of T-shirts and hats that say Dreadwolf. But the ridiculous name aside, like, I mean, the discourse about it being a hero shooter based on one trailer made me want to throw my computer across the room. I was like, really? This is the thing that we're getting upset about? But I loved the gameplay trailer. I'm excited to play the game. The action combat looks just like I remember Inquisition. It's funny, the trailer had a rogue in it. The player character is a rogue, and I played Inquisition for the first time as a rogue, so like I recognized a lot of the combat style. But like, it's funny, I think in the last episode, Marcus, you had posed the question, do Dragon Age fans actually care about the consistency or not? As a Dragon Age fan, I'd say not really. I mean, like Mass Effect, I'm here for the story and like the relationships and of course who I can romance. That's the most important part. But like the combat being consistent isn't a big deal. I think I hated Origins combat. It wasn't enough like a CRPG, and it wasn't enough like an action RPG. It was kind of in the middle, and it drove me crazy. So when 2 just kind of went hard action, I went, all right, this is fine. And then felt like Inquisition kind of really locked it in. But yeah, I'm excited about it. It looks great. And also I just, like a friend of the show, Kenneth Shepard, has said this online a bunch too. I'm just happy they have something new coming. Like, it's excited to be excited about a new BioWare game. BioWare is one of my favorite studios ever. And like, I thought this game was vaporware for so long, like a lot of us. I'm still not convinced we're getting a Mass Effect game. Like, just
no, there's a poster of it.
They tease it every year.
They tease that same poster.
Video. Someone's wearing armor.
Right, exactly. But like this, like was just like still images and VO for so long, and the fact that we got to see gameplay and a cutscene and all the new, very attractive characters, I'm excited for it. I will probably bully my way back onto this podcast around release time, but like I'm very. It's cool to have a current BioWare game coming out when I make a BioWare podcast, because that's just not been a thing in the last 6 years, because they've been making this for 10 years, 12 years, whatever it's been. And I want it to be good. It doesn't even have to be great. I would love for it to be great. I just need it to be good, like, so I can be excited about it. John,
I think BioWare does too.
I mean, yes, obviously. John, I don't remember if you've played the Dragon Age games or not.
You know, I've played a little bit of Origins, a little bit of Inquisition, and I skipped 2 altogether because I never finished Origins. But like, from what I've gathered, like the whole consistency with that series is its inconsistency, like, in its storytelling,
basically.
in its gameplay, and like, yes, there are like narrative through lines, which is what you would be there for if you enjoy the series, but like none of those games play the same. So like when this was kind of shown off as like a poppy fun adventure, akin to like the Dungeons and Dragons movie or like a Marvel movie, that didn't shock me. I kind of wish it was a little bit more like high fantasy like it originally started out with. That's more my vibe, but like I am completely down to see what this game is and what BioWare as a studio is like in 2024, because it's been so long. Really what we have Anthem and Andromeda to look back on as like their previous releases. Like, it's been so long, and those games are very different from what this is or what it's going to be. So yeah, I'm just interested to see how they're kind of projecting themselves these days.
I am gonna take a Kyle stance for once. Kyle famously on this show always says, play the new thing, right? Who cares? Play the new thing. Like, you thought you weren't sure what I was going to quote you on?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you look
drag something from the backlog.
Right.
Kyle
I've been podcasting since like 2011. There's probably something out there.
But like Kyle, you always say, like, play the new thing. Who cares? And like, typically, I hate that. It makes my skin crawl because I love complete stories. Like, I do. Like Alan Wake. You were saying people should just play Alan Wake 2, and I was like, no, you can't. There's just no way.
No, you
but
can.
Like,
you absolutely can.
But you absolutely. But you know, you're right. You absolutely can. But with the Veilguard, it's like you guys said last week, the story is so inconsistent, and this is clearly starting from a place of like, Solus is the bad guy. This is what's happening. Go get him. I think people should start with this game just like you could start with Inquisition and just kind of jump in because it looks like it's going to be a blast.
There's a ton of examples.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take your Kyle advice. I will play this.
Was Solus in Origins, or was he just an Inquisition guy?
Just Inquisition. So Varric is in 2 Inquisition and this game. He's as of now, and then Harding, the other dwarf in the gameplay trailer, is also from Inquisition. But no, Solus, as far as I know, has only been in Inquisition, and now this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only ever... Origins is the only Dragon Age I've ever beaten, and I've yet to play Inquisition despite owning it for years.
Now's the time.
No, it's not.
Play the new one.
I gotta exactly. This is
Play
where
the
I take
newest one, and then play
this
the
is where
new
I take I gotta catch up on Final Fantasy XIV. Apparently,
I mean, yeah, of course that's true.
Start from the beginning.
So you can't even do play the new thing with that game.
No, you have to.
You technically can. Like you can buy skips to the main story quest.
No, we're not doing that.
But you shouldn't. It's Kyle. You watched a lot of One Piece, right?
Yeah.
Should you skip any of One Piece and just skip to the current arc?
Well, that's different, John.
Start
Not
from
the same.
Different
Exact
medium.
You play Pyro Warriors 1 and then 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say, this is a soft recommendation I've given to a couple folks where I've been like, watch the live action Netflix show, which is solid.
Yeah.
Good.
It's
so
good.
good.
And then if like you want to keep going but you're scared by One Piece's length, pick up where the live action show left off, and you'll basically be caught up, you know?
Yeah. Also, there is an anime coming out later this year called The One Piece that is supposed to kind of be the Dragon Ball Z Kai of One Piece. It's
interesting.
Their main things I was reading today. The main things that they're focusing on is people's concerns about like how many episodes One Piece is, and just being like an easy way for people to jump in.
Yeah,
so.
they're like compressing the early arcs and redoing them. I mean, they'll be in widescreen, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of episodes that were basically like 5 minutes of new stuff and like 10 minutes of recap. So hopefully they can just make a better show out of it.
Yeah. Why didn't they just call it that? Why did they call it The One Piece? That's like bigger to me.
Well,
because
call
the
it
Batman.
One Piece is still happening. They have to put something in there.
Okay, sure.
Do the Nintendo approach, just call it New One Piece.
New One Piece.
New Super One Piece.
Just call it less pieces. This is a shorter show.
Oh my god.
As we start to wind down here, I feel like we need an official jingle for this because it's time for our Elden Ring check-in. Yeah. Shadow of the Erdtree.
Nice. Either that, which I really like,
yeah.
John, or it's just my character dying and going
over and over again.
Oof.
Kyle, how are we doing in Shadow of the Erdtree? Have you finished it?
Okay, I'm gonna say boss names. Like I'll set that up now. Like that's the spoiler level we'll go. I think.
Okay.
I have made it to the promised consort Radon.
Okay.
Which you don't even have to betray to me or not, but I get the sense that might be the finish line, but I don't actually know. Marcus is just staring ahead blankly.
This is literally the only boss I know in the expansion. Okay. I also do not know.
But I fought him a couple times, and if you play Elden Ring, or at least how I play, you walk through the fog gate and you ring your bell, right? You're like, help me, because you ring your bell, and then you use a health item just to like get back because it costs health to use the bell, and this guy.
Well, for the mimic tier, it costs health.
That's what I'm using.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you use anything but yourself? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And but what happens with this guy is you ring the bell and he's like, nah. He like immediately bounces on you, and so I was like, you know what? I don't need to struggle here right now. So I went and I left, and I've been trying to fill in the map, which has been like weirdly hard. Like there's like I have
Did
like
you ever find the northwest one? You said, oh wow, you still haven't.
I still haven't. And like, but like last night I got to the Putrescent Knight. Have you fought him, Marcus? He seems fully optional, which is like really cool. Because like you go deep. I don't think I had enough deeps underground, and then when you get to the point where you have to fight him, you jump off a cliff and you fall for like the amount of time it takes you to pull up your phone and check your email and make sure you're caught up and everything. Because like I did that jump like 6 or 7 times, and I was like, all right, I'm falling, and let me check Twitter. Okay, yeah, things are going good. And then so like. And that was a cool fight. Just the entrance into that, where you're just so deep underground, it's insane. And then I also did, on the opposite end of that, I did go and beat Bale as well. Bale the Dread, which was another tough fight. Which is like a big one-legged dragon, which is like he just looks gnarly as hell.
You honestly forget he has one leg because he doesn't let him hold it back. He's I actually I beat him too. I think the last time I mentioned him to you, Kyle, I hadn't beaten him, but I too have conquered Bale. It felt good. It felt really good for Egon, the guy that really wants you to kill him.
Yeah, which I went back and talked to him, and I like he had left or something. I don't know.
Well, he joined you for the fight, right?
No, it was just me and my.
Well, oh, you didn't, or you could summon. You have so his. I don't know if you noticed this, but his summoning sigil, it's in the arena.
Oh,
it's not outside like everybody else.
Interesting.
It's
like
like
right
right
in front
to know,
of the door. Marcus. Thanks for nothing.
Get good, I guess.
Got him.
I did. I had to. It was me and my mimic here.
I mean, you beat him without him.
I
and honestly,
yeah.
I don't think you missed much. Because he kind of sucks. And I don't know if it's just me, but like you talk to him and he's like going on and on about like, oh, kill Bale. I hate Bale. And he thinks he's talking about Christian Bale. But like, I'm like, okay.
And guy on the Terminator movie finally getting his revenge.
Exactly. But it's like, it's not even that. It's already hard enough because unlike every other person like summoning like NPC, his is inside the arena for some reason, which is weird. It's like right in front of the door, but you have to initiate the fight, then stand in front of it, then hit the button to
Mesmer
bring him
has
in.
that too. He has a summon in the arena as well. Yeah.
I thought I didn't have any help with that, and I think that there's story reasons for that. Okay. I just had my mimic tier, but like NPCs. Oh man, this is getting into some stuff. I was like, someone showed up, but they showed up on their own.
Oh, funky.
But it was like wait, no one showed up. I'm thinking of the fight before it. Never mind. Okay. But anyways, apparently there's like variations of how that can play out. But it was just me and my mimic tier for Mesmer. I had no available assistance. But like, yeah, so like in Bale I called him, and then I feel like out of all the summonable allies, he contributed the least. Outside of like yelling comedically about how he is Bale's worst fears made flesh. And he uses a big old cross, like a big arrow. Or a big bow, and I'm like, oh man, that looks like that could do some damage. And this guy, like, he takes forever to shoot. Like, he's just kind of running around. I'm like, every now I'm trying to like fight, and then I look behind, like, dude, are we doing this? And he's just like, kind of like standing around or running, and I'm like, please help me.
Could you please distract him for at least a moment?
What did I summon you for?
And then he takes his like one shot that he waited 5 minutes to do, and it like whiffs like half the time because Bale moves around so much. And I'm like, why are you here? Like it's already hard enough to summon you because you're in the arena, so I have to summon you, then summon my mimic tier, and the fight has already started. So it's like it's rough. Yeah. And outside of just screaming about how he's gonna be Bale's worst nightmare, he's like worthless. So
I don't feel so bad then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my goal is I want to get the map like filled in. You know what I mean? I mean,
sure, there's some cool stuff.
Yeah, I have like 2 large areas that I haven't found the maps for yet. And I figure once I do that process will get me some new Erdtree stuff, and then I'll go all in on Radon, I think.
Yeah, so I listened to the Min-Max Deepest Dive you guys did for this, which great job, by the way. Shout out to Jacob Geller for hosting that. And it's funny because you mentioned, he mentioned one of the areas you haven't gone through yet, and he mentioned the coffin thing, which I can understand because that's tricky to find. But the other one in the Northwest that you have not found, I'm almost like feeling bad for you because it is actually deceptively simple to reach. Like you can reach it any time. Like there's nothing stopping you from getting there. Okay. And I guess the same is true for the other one. But I mean, this one is like there's no trickery really behind it. You just haven't found the opening to get there, but it is
maybe
like
I'll DM you actually because I am hitting.
You have probably passed it a myriad of times, honestly, at this point. Yeah. So,
but it's, I mean, it continues to be great. Marcus, your review, you gave the DLC like a 9.75. It's great. I mean, it totally reignited, my Elden Ring passion, and I'm 100% back in, and I'm having a great time with it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm still playing it myself, trying to clean up stuff that I haven't found yet, and I will continue to do so because it's great. In between Infinity Nikki.
The DLC has trophies, right?
I haven't gotten any. Well, I guess I thought because I was playing pre-release that I was like, oh, that's why. But now that I think about it, I've been playing post-release, and I haven't gotten any, so I don't.
Well,
maybe there aren't any.
This is weird. This is like behind-the-scenes stuff. But usually when you get an early PS5 game, you can't really see the trophies until the game is out, right? So I will actually, you'll review a game and they'll be like, oh, what trophies did I get? Not that I'm like a big trophy guy. I don't really usually care that much, but
just like that hit a dopamine.
But because it's like the nice thing about Elden Ring is because I'm always looking for excuses to continue playing. I liked having the trophies because it was like, oh, that's a checkbox I can go to. But I don't when I pull up my trophies, it doesn't list any additional ones. And then when I go to the store, it actually asks me if I want to buy the DLC. And I think it's because I had an early release code or something. I don't know if I've just hit a weird specific bug or what. I was like, does this not have trophies?
There are no trophies.
There are no trophies. Okay.
There are no trophies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
I
guess rest I can't help you with.
I guess it preserves the platinum, but that's kind of disappointing. Like there's some things in that game you're like, I should have got a trophy for that. That was hard.
Yeah, I did. I platinumed the base game by like playing through it twice, but I don't need trophies or anything. I was just curious if they existed. So that does answer my question, John. Thank you.
You're not.
Sure.
You're good.
I'll take them though. I know John and Matt, you said before the show that you're playing the base game of Elden Ring right now.
Yeah.
Or have played it, but have not jumped into the DLC yet.
Correct.
Yeah, I want to, but I also do not have the time to get good over again. Also, I came back to my character, who is not a New Game Plus. I was smart enough not to do that, but didn't beat the optional boss that you need to enter the DLC. You have to beat Radon, right? But I didn't beat the optional boss.
Moog,
and when I learned that I also had not unlocked the peninsula that Moog was on, I haven't even gotten to that area, I was like, no, thank you, I don't have time. And also I made a mage because I heard that if you get powerful, it's like you're like Goku, Super Saiyan. Like you can just obliterate bosses. But trying to relearn that, also after playing Dragon's Dogma 2 this year and hitting things with a spear or a sword, I'm like, I can't do this. I fought one enemy in that new area, it killed me in 2 hits, and I went, I think I'm good. I think I'll come back to this later. If I start a new game, because I wanted to start a new playthrough as a melee character, because I tend to lean more towards melee characters, I might go for the DLC, but I think for now, I'm just going to kind of... There's plenty of other games. I'm letting other folks enjoy it, and I'm living vicariously through their death stories and video clips of getting clobbered by bosses.
That's my strategy right now. Is I think I originally played it on PS5, and I bought it on Steam because I've upgraded my PC recently, and I think it'll look nice on there. So bought it on there. I'm starting over. I jumped in for 5 minutes, created a character, just walked in, and I am completely confused by the controls already. After playing so many games in between, it is imperative that I start over, because if I jump into my PS5 save where I am, I'm gonna die immediately. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna have to go to an earlier part of the game and just start hitting things just to get the feeling back.
Yeah.
But I'd rather just build up my character again and learn that way. So that's my strategy. hopefully I can get to it and kind of like pick away at it over the summer. I need to finish this Final Fantasy XIV DLC or expansion first, and that's very time consuming.
Yeah.
At the moment. And then everything that's happening in like September, October, we'll see where I find time to play more. But I want to. It's been like all that my friends are talking about, and it's good. I want to see that new stuff.
Yeah, I love it. It's up there, my upper echelon of games of the year so far.
Nice.
Yeah, that wraps up this episode of the show. Thank you both for joining us, John and Matt, for taking time out. Do you guys want to take a chance to plug anything that you guys are working on that you want to steer the viewers to? John, can start with you.
Yeah, check out the Indie Informer. We are on X/Twitter at Indie_Informer. Also, the website is indie-in-former.com. It's I don't know why that's the website, but
I'm sure if you
go
Google
check
it,
out.
you'll probably find it pretty easily, right?
Yeah. I'm currently on summer vacation from there, but read everything that Jill is putting out there. There's a bunch of stuff from SGF.
Yeah, you guys do great work.
Indies never stop dropping, and Jill is killing it over there right now.
That's right. It's May 9th every day.
Yep. And then read my review of Dawntrail when that drops in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. For me, I mean, you can find me right here editing this podcast every week. I love doing it. It's fun to be on the show every so often, too. As you guys say at the end of every episode, and I'm so grateful, I have 2 podcasts to promote besides this one. I do a general video game podcast called Fun and Games. It's a broad conversation about the games and games industry. We bring on guests. Marcus was on not that long ago talking about the plethora of Spider-Man games across the years. We did a franchise retrospective, but both of you, actually everyone on this call has done a side quest episode, which is a smaller show within the feed where 3 times every 2 weeks we put out a short, like 10 to 15 minute episode about a game someone loves and why they love it. Marcus did a great one on Final Fantasy X. John Carson did one on Magic MTG Arena, and then Kyle had done one on Ocarina of Time, I believe. And all of them great episodes, fun chats. I'm definitely going to wrangle y'all for another one at some point. But it's really just my way of putting some positivity and joy into the internet of like, these people unabashedly love these games. Here's why. And so can't recommend that enough. And then, like I said, my now current BioWare retrospective podcast, we're currently covering Dragon Age 2, but we'll be checking in on Veilguard throughout the year until it comes out. We will not be doing it for the show cold. We will be playing it on our own first and then come back to it when we get to it in the timeline. But if you want all the latest Dragon Age stuff, you can go there. And then I'm on most social media as DJ_Stormageddon, except Blue Sky, I'm just DJ Stormageddon because they don't like underscores for some reason. And you want to chat games, you can give me a follow there. And thanks for having me again. This is always a blast.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, guys. And yes, as I mentioned at the top of the show, you can subscribe to a print edition of Game Informer magazine. It's just $19.91 for 10 issues a year, or you can sign up for 20 issues for 2 years for $34.99. Great way to support Game Informer directly, show our parent company that we are worth keeping around and all that good stuff, and it helps us support the website and this podcast. You can also follow us on social media. Game Informer is on Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, as well as Twitch, which you can find us at twitch.tv/Game Informer. Kyle and I have our ongoing, never-ending Super Replay series of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Yeah. We're enjoying it, to be clear. It's been fun, but
it has been very fun. We just made like next to no progress the last episode because of the nature
Majora's
of
Mask.
pretty much.
Yeah, I did my first time playing the game, and I'm understanding like it's a really fun game, but man, it can when you don't make progress, it hurts. Yeah, so, but yeah, we'll see what we can do next week when we hop back in the saddle with that. But yeah, subscribe there for all of our Twitch streams. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Marcus Stewart 7. That is the number 7. Kyle, you're at Kyle M. Hilliard. John, what is your handle?
Oh, sorry, mine's John_Carson.
That's right. Yes. There you go. And yeah, tune in next week, guys. We'll be back with another episode of the Game Informer Show. But until then, we hope you have a great week. Happy 4th of July for all of our American viewers and listeners. And we shall see you next time. Bye, everyone.